are to Rome, museums are to Paris, and theme parks are to Orlando, nature is to Monteverde. There's no lack of nature and biodiversity in Monteverde. Monteverde's claim to fame is a cloud forest, biological reserve, and canopy tours, offering a true glimpse into the wildly rich forests and mountains of the region. It also hosts many smaller local attractions, such as coffee farm tours, artisan shops, butterfly gardens, and restaurants serving comito tico. The original community centered around dairy and cheese production. However, tourism quickly overtook the economy, with travelers eager to witness the wilderness and wildlife of Monteverde, such as the splendid quetzal. Currently, the local population is almost 7,000, with their main source of income coming from tourism and tourism operations.
In 1951, a group of Quakers left Alabama in order to avoid the military draft. They were drawn to Costa Rica because in 1948 the country had abolished its military. The group settled high in the mountains in a region known today as Monteverde. In the beginning, the community divided up the land and began sustenance farming. When the need and desire to improve infrastructure began, the Quakers turned to dairy production and selling beef and garlic. The Monteverde cheese factory was very successful. However, the land became overgrazed and cattle farming decreased. The community began growing coffee instead. In 1972, George Powell bought 10,000 hectares of land and declared it the Monteverde Cloud Rainforest. Today, the Cloud Rainforest is what draws people to Monteverde. Only 2% of the park is open to visitors in order to protect this biologically rich area. There are over 200,000 visitors a year that travel up a partially unpaved road to experience the rich green forests and diverse animals that inhabit the reserve. Monteverde's economy is now centered around tourism. There are restaurants, hotels, hostels, and adventure tour operators surrounding the Cloud Rainforest. These operations provide jobs for locals, which keeps money inside the community. There are no international and large-scale operations here in Monteverde, and the people are proud of it. While there's not much room for expansion at this point due to its semi-remote location, Monteverde is able to support itself through the tourism industry.
Ecotourism has had both negative and positive social impacts in the community of Monteverde. One particular place which has received global recognition is the Monteverde Cloud Forest. National Geographic stated, Monteverde Cloud Forest is the jewel in the crown of cloud forest reserves. Additionally, it was deemed one of the 7 natural wonders of Costa Rica. These assertions, among many others, have attracted 250,000 eco-tourists each year to visit Monteverde. Some of the general positive impacts of the growing tourism industry in Monteverde are improved goods and services, as well as improved built capital, such as more paved roads, and an overall increased quality of life for locals. One positive impact in particular would be the growth of the Casem Women's Art Co-op. Established in 1982, it was originally part of the Santa Elena Co-op and only had 8 members. The women's goals for the co-op were to use creative skills to improve the lives of their families. Now with over 100 members, the Casem Co-op is a flourishing community enterprise. The objectives of the co-op are to provide employment to local women, training in crafts as well as business skills, build self-esteem among its members living in a machismo culture, encourage community participation, and generate extra income for families. The members receive 65% of the sale price of any item sold, and the remaining 35% is invested into the co-op's facilities and educational programs. Some of the major issues facing Monteverde include population growth, resource scarcity, loss of culture, and an increased cost of real estate. The major strength in coping with globalization is the community was founded on Quaker ideals of nonviolence and acceptance. This enables Monteverde to be very open to collaborations with organizations, which increases both bridging and bonding social capital. Costa Rica as a whole has been able to distinguish itself from the rest of Central America for several reasons. Its political stability, strong democratic institutions, and low crime rates are the nation's most important selling points. A major weakness is commodification of local culture and loss of authenticity. Given its unique remote location, coupled with population growth and a growing tourism industry, overexploitation of resources is another weakness. Monteverde's high standards of living, literacy rates, and health provide solid foundation to leverage opportunities into positive developments. Additionally, their large network of collaborations and organizations, both locally and internationally, further these positive developments. Some of these organizations include the Monteverde Institute, which is a nonprofit educational association by Monteverde residents, the Monteverde Friends School, a bilingual school primarily serving local children, and there are also many co-ops such as the Coffee Farmers Co-op and the Women's Art Co-op mentioned earlier. The future outlook for sustainable development in the ecotourism industry will be shaped by a growth in co-ops, continued collaborations and partnerships, and improved infrastructure. But the community must go about this in a sustainable and thoughtful way, characterized by small scale and keeping local culture and local involvement at all times.
Monteverde is a community with strong conservation and environmental protection viewpoints. Residents are very aware of the importance of the surrounding environment. There are constant efforts by community members to protect their home, from reducing waste and recycling to providing environmental education to tourists. The Santa Elena and Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserves work to educate visitors and protect the biodiversity. The money taken in by the tours is used to enhance conservation efforts used in the reserve and is also given back to the community's schools for greater technology or towards enriching education through environmental or biology courses. Santa Elena and Monteverde Cloud Forests both allow tourists to walk through the outlying trails and experience the forest, plant, and wildlife. This can be harmful to the land if not controlled, as the greater number of tourists in a condensed area will degrade the land and wildlife. They limit the number of visitors per day to prevent such environmental degradation, and so far have not seen extensive ecological destruction. The trails in the Monteverde Reserve are actually only present in 2% of the whole reserve. They have minimal impact on the wildlife, including the famous quetzal, who do not seem to mind the people. Those species who do stay clear of the trails. Biologists have determined that the annual 250,000 visitors luckily have very little impact on the environment. Monteverde's lack of a paved road makes it difficult to enter and leave the city. However, this can also be considered a strength because the community would not be able to sustain the number of increasing tourists associated with a paved road. A greater number of visitors would mean a greater risk for environmental damage and a quick road deterioration. Monteverde also has a greater demand for water and electricity than the available supply. Blackouts and water shortages, especially in the dry season, are not uncommon. Monteverde also lacks the infrastructure to keep up with demand, as well as a strong waste collection system. Water pollution is also an issue. Gray water from laundry, shower, and sink runoffs makes its way into the soil due to the constraints of treatment infrastructure and maintenance. As a result, chemicals from soap and detergent harm crops and contaminate water, including drinking water. For now, the Monteverde Institute works towards educating farmers and visitors about Monteverde's biodiversity, environmental practices, and the harmful effects of gray water, while also assisting in cleanup efforts in hopes to eliminate the water contamination issue. As long as the road remains unpaved to keep out a further influx of visitors, Monteverde can remain sustainable while maintaining conservation efforts. It must improve the waste management system and overall infrastructure in order to continue to sustain the community and tourists. Government-issued and enforced zoning laws are also necessary to control the population and land use. With these practices, Monteverde can continue to experience success in sustainable development and ecotourism practices.